Trying to find the right adoption agency for your family, or even trying to find an adoption agency, period? Don't worry, friend. I've got your back. Today's video, we're going to walk through step by step how to pick an agency, how to find an agency, and even just how to get started. In case we haven't met yet, my name is Amanda, and I'm an adoptive mom of two on a mission to make your adoption easier, faster, and more affordable. I release new videos each and every week to help you through your specific adoption journey. So make sure you subscribe and ring the little bell icon so that you get notified each and every time I release a new video. When I was going through my own adoption journey, I interviewed several agencies and attorneys until I found the right fit for us. And I have found that this is an area that my one-to-one clients get stuck in a lot. It's just how to even find an agency to start with, and then how do you determine what agency is the right fit for you. So I know you're super shocked by what I'm about to say, but I have a step-by-step process. I'm sure you're just like, okay, you're super corny, lady, but it's just me sitting here in my attic filming this and recording this for you guys. And I have to have a little fun from time to time, right? But in all seriousness, I have a step-by-step process to help you find an agency and how to choose the right agency for your family. And that's what I'm going to walk you through now. Okay, so first we're going to start with how to find an adoption agency. I know this is going to be a really kind of tricky and maybe a little intuitive statement, what I'm about to say, but I would start with Google, friend. There's a lot in the adoption journey that I would always suggest that you start with Google, but then you should go into real world experience with people in Facebook groups, with an adoption coach, etc. But when I was going through my own journey, literally what I started with was just adoption agencies in Arkansas as a Google search. So adoption agencies and insert your state here is a great place to start. When it comes to finding an agency, you want to find an agency that is licensed in your state. And that's definitely going to be one of the questions that you'll ask them when you have your conversation with them. But we'll talk more about that in just a few minutes. So I would start with just a simple Google search. And if you're in the Facebook groups for adoption, and if you're not, I would highly suggest that you do that. I would suggest that you join multiple groups because there are multiple different types of groups when it comes to adoption. There are groups that focus on helping you match. And then there are groups like my group, which is called the My Adoption Coach Facebook group. It's specifically designed just to help you through your journey, just to be a resource for you. It's away from agencies and consultants and away from expectant parents. We don't allow those groups into it so that it's your safe space to ask any questions without fear of judgment, because that is the number one rule in the group is no judgment zone. But I would go into the groups that you're a member of, and I would search for those agencies so that you can see what's been asked and shared about those agencies before. Chances are there's been a lot shared about those agencies that you're considering. And if you don't see the answer to your particular question, then I would ask away. I'm always happy to share, my feedback on the agency that we partnered with during our adoption journey, because that was the method that we used in our own adoption. So again, I would start with doing a simple Google search to see who's licensed in your area. And then next, I would go into Facebook groups and look for what has been shared before, and then ask questions that you might still have remaining at that moment. When you are doing your initial search on these agencies, after you've done kind of that litmus test, if you will, of are they, licensed in our area, what do people have to say about them, then I would go to their websites and I would look to see that you meet the criteria that they will work with, and that they meet the criteria that is right for your family. So there are some agencies that partner based upon a certain list of like demographic questions, if you will, age, race, ethnicity, whatever you want to call it, sexual orientation, married, not married, religion. each agency, because they are private businesses, do have their own requirements of what they're willing to work with from a hopeful adoptive family perspective. So you immediately want to kind of weed out those that don't match your values or your family criteria. So once you've done all of that, then I would suggest that you move into the next section, if you will, which would be interview questions. But before we dive into that, I would love your feedback on if these videos are helpful for you. I've been, kind of going through a series now on focusing on how to adopt a baby and kind of breaking down each step for you a little bit more in particular. And of course, I have the course on how to adopt a baby as well. But I'd love to know if this content is helpful. So if you would leave a rating and review or a comment wherever you're listening to this podcast, watching this video, however you're consuming this content, I surely would appreciate it, because it does help me understand what types of questions that you guys have in your adoption journeys, so that I can create content that will help you and kind of help you break through those roadblocks. Okay, so now let's dive into the next step here in finding an agency partner, which would be interview questions. So I do have a free resource over in the Facebook group under the guide section. Again, that's the My Adoption Coach Facebook group. And in the guide section, I have I think it's a 2 or 3 page PDF now, of all the questions that I ask and that I coach my clients to ask whenever they are meeting with an agency or with an attorney or a consultant for that matter. But when you're meeting with them, you want to understand a few basic things. Again, grab the guide. It's really going to help you. It'll go through a really comprehensive list. This video would last for days and days and days if I walked you through everything. So I really want to walk you through just kind of the overview. So the first is you want to get a clear understanding of their process. So even though I have likely, or if you haven't already watched or listened to the videos or the podcast around the steps, go back and do that. Even though I've walked you through the steps, each agency and consultant and attorney is going to have their own kind of variation of that, if you will. They're going to mix it up just slightly based upon what works best for them or what's different in their state. So the first question I would ask when you're meeting with them is, what's the process? Give me just an overall rundown of your process. Talk to me about your timeline. Be very specific when you talk about timeline as it relates to the timeline for each step in the process, so that you're clear, because they'll throw out generalities like, oh, it'll happen within a year, but you want to understand kind of the stage gates of what happens in each process. Like, okay, when we're doing our profile, it should take this long. When we're going through our home study, it should take this long. That will help you have some, kind of guidance mentally around what's coming down the pike, and help you also plan your life, because I'm a firm believer that you shouldn't put your life on hold for the adoption journey. So understanding what's coming up will definitely help. So I'd start with the process. I'd go next into timeline, specifically breaking down the timeline against the process that they outline. Then I would move into cost. That is one of those uncomfortable conversations, but it is so important that you have that conversation with them in a very direct manner. Ask all the questions. Don't be shy. Don't be uncomfortable about it. They're likely going to be asking you for tens of thousands of dollars. It is really important that you understand how your money is going to be used, at which time you will need to provide which funds. So again, going back to the timeline conversation, how does the money or the cost attach to the timeline, so that you can set up in your mind, okay, I'm going to have $5,000 at this time, $10,000 at that time, so that you understand from a fundraising perspective and a financial planning perspective exactly what you need to do at each step and each turn. So next, I would move into a communication style conversation. When it comes to communication style, this is so incredibly important, because this is literally the step that will drive you absolutely just crazy when it comes to understanding what's going to happen when. Because to an agency, this is a business. Or to an attorney or to a consultant, I mean, I'm not trying to be harsh or crass, my friend, but this is their business. For you, this is your life. This is the way you're going to become, a parent, become a mother. And it is something that you likely are eat, sleeping, and breathing every second of the day. And for them, you're another family in the queue waiting your turn until the right match comes along. So you need to understand how they're going to be communicating with you, when they're going to be communicating with you, so that you can set your expectations accordingly. I can remember not getting, I mean, I felt like I'm paying you guys a lot of money. I should have some more regular communication. Sometimes it would take a day or more to get a phone call or an email returned. And I literally was sitting there refreshing my phone every 30 seconds trying to get, an update, right? So it is a very tricky subject. So those are the three big buckets that I would really focus your conversations around is first, really what is the overall process for your agency? Second, what is the timeline? Third, I guess there are four. The third would be the cost and where do you have to come up with the funds based upon the timeline. And then the fourth is really around communication style. Because again, those four areas are so, so important that you are on the same page with your agency. Not every agency or attorney or consultant are going to be the right fit for you, and that's okay. You don't have to go with an agency just because they're licensed in your state or just because somebody has a positive experience with them. Make sure you feel like they're a good fit. That's the bottom line. Make sure they feel like they're a good fit. One last little bonus tip that I'll give you that we learned the hard way in our adoption journey is to make sure that you are really clear on what happens if there is a disruption. Now, I won't get into the politics of the disruption and like calling it a disruption and all of those things, because certainly every expectant parent has the opportunity and the right to choose to parent. From a hopeful adoptive family's perspective, it is important to understand that if the adoption does not go all the way through to finalization, one, what happens if you physically are caring for the child? And then two, what happens to your funds? Because that is just kind of an ugly side of adoption that sometimes you lose the funds in that instance. There are some agency partners out there that do allow for a risk sharing policy, which is basically like an insurance policy on your funds. So say you have an adoption that you have paid all of the hard costs for, you've paid the medical expenses, the living expenses, all of those types of things. You get to the last day of the revocation period, the revocation period being the period in which the expectant family has the opportunity to change their mind and not go through with the adoption, and they change their mind. What happens then? You turn the child back over to them, obviously. That's physically what happens. And you go through all of the emotional and grief that is associated with that. But then you need to be super clear on what happens from a financial perspective from there. We had the unfortunate circumstance of living this. And luckily, we had an agency partner and we were super clear up front on how that process worked because they had a risk sharing policy that protected our investment. But I know some clients that have been through tens of thousands of dollars in disruption and not received a dollar of that back or towards their next adoption opportunity. And for most of us, that can actually equate in not having an adoption opportunity again. So it's really important that you do ask that. So that's my kind of hidden bonus tip, if you will, when it comes to choosing a partner in your adoption journey as to something you really want to make sure you're clear on. So again, over in the Facebook group, under the guide section, there is I think I called it like interview questions, but basically they're the same interview questions that I would suggest that you would use for an agency, an attorney, or a consultant. And I always suggest you add your own on top of that, but that will give you a really solid foundation and jumping off point. And then in my course, How to Adopt, I go more in depth on this around just, finding an agency in general, and then way more in depth as it relates to questions, and offer you the opportunity for one-to-one coaching where I can help you kind of guide through the process of choosing an agency and the process of actually setting up the interview questions, and even a Google document that you can kind of keep all of this in, a survey that you can use with them as well. So to make your time just a little bit more valuable there as well. Okay, so if you want to grab this free guide, head on over to the Facebook group. Again, it's totally free to join the Facebook group as it is to consume my podcast or the videos on the YouTube channel. I just do all of this to help you. And then for those of you that want a little bit more expertise and a little bit more, kind of guidance throughout the journey, I do offer the one-to-one coaching as well as the How to Adopt course that walks you through everything step by step, no matter which method of adoption you are choosing. So I trust that you have found this content incredibly valuable, friend, and I hope that you consider subscribing, leaving a rating and review. And if you want to learn more about the adoption process, feel free to jump over to either the podcast and capture like one of the last, 29-ish episodes that we've had now that walk you through the process of everything. Or if you're checking us out on the YouTube channel, make sure that you check out either the step-by-step video or the video that talks about the different types of adoption. And bonus for those of you that might be consuming both, as of right now, I am actually filming kind of one video and audio, if you will, at one time, but coming soon, you will actually get unique content in both platforms as well. So I trust again that you found this valuable today, friends. I hope that you have a great day. And remember, anything's possible with the right plan and support, and I've always got your back through every step of the adoption journey.